there's been some work that I haven't shown yet. And again, it's an emotional response for me. I spend hours making the work and I'm almost like personifying it because it was me at the time just lashing out. And it's kind of like I'm not showing it until I'm ready.
Friend, here's something I don't know if you know. While the podcast is a thought of mine for a long time, thinking of me absolutely could not be doing this without our very own Wizard of Oz, Kyle, at Goodknight Podcasting Solutions. Kyle's turnaround time, dedication and level of service means that I never have to second guess or worry about the level of support in getting our messaging out to you. If you're curious as to starting your own podcast or just want to see how it might spread your message, reach out to Kyle at kylegoodknight.com or check our show notes. I mean it when I say that we couldn't be doing this without him. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. We have Emma Carter with us in our Season 2 Action and Exploring. And Emma is an old friend of mine, and we haven't really connected as much in the last couple of years with all things exploring in life, getting set up and change and moving and all that kind of thing. So from one lockdown to, in a way, another one, I'll let Emma introduce herself and what it is she does and the expression of exploring that she's turned from a passion into a career, which is only admirable. And Emma, I just to even say before you even do introduce yourself, to watch and witness how you've grown yourself and your business and your artistic expression since I suppose we last were closer connected, it's just unreal to follow. So yeah, Emma, the reins are yours. If you want to say hi.
Thank you so much, that's really nice to hear. Yeah, I'm basically just a teacher, a secondary school art teacher, and I also I'm going to say freelance artist on the side. I genuinely was painting definitely over COVID as well, just to kind of let my mind free. And I was just a passion, and neighbours of mine bought artwork off me and they have it still in their homes, and I just thought, oh, that's really nice. So I was still teaching at the time and just set up an Instagram page over COVID and just started uploading my work for people to see. Then it was only in 2022 that I got an invitation to go to Venice to show my work, and that is why I can now say I'm just an artist as well as a teacher, because I couldn't say that years ago. So I've been on this art scene since 2022, but on the teaching scene since 2018 and such. So yeah, that's basically so far.
100% so far. I love that. For anyone listening, friends, check out Emma's page, Emma Carter Art, where I think you need to give yourself like 100 ounces more credit there on the level of work that goes into everything you've created. And like that, I remember when you were just, I don't mean just, but I remember when you were beginning to commission some of your work and that kind of thing. And as I say, to see it on different parts of the world kind of thing, and the response that you have gotten and get. You said there that, you know, you've been an artist for so long and a teacher for longer or that, but when did the artist start to come out? When, I suppose, did you really, has it always been there, or?
Yeah, no, it's always been there. Like, I always tell people it's from like the community games, like under 8 level, when I was just, you know, doodling away. And then it was just like constant for community games, like everyone started complimenting the work then. And like I was getting compliments at home here from the family being like, oh, like another art set coming in the door. But obviously when you hear compliments towards your work, you're obviously going to think you're doing something right. And I just never had the musical talent in me. And then the creative side of me was just drawing at the time. And then secondary school, art was one of the subjects that I just loved going to school for. You know, I was going in just for the art room and art lessons. And like I knew probably in junior cert what I was going to be doing in college, because everyone else was on about art and, you know, these really long worded courses. It scared the living crap out of me, because I was in the corner being like, I'm going to be doodling. But yeah, it's always been there. It's always been there. And like the push from family and friends to go for it without like being judged for not going for those common courses. Probably I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that kind of nudge when I was younger, because obviously it's like a daunting world when you're in school. I see it with my students as well. They're worried about what other people are going to say if they go for courses that are out of like thinking out of the box. But yeah, like in college I kind of went in so innocent because I was so young going to college, and the lecturers there really pushed me, like so much so when that push comes to shove, it's like, I don't want to be here, but I'm going to push myself because I need to prove to you that I can do this as well. Even though I'm the youngest on the course, I can still do it. And then I specialised in paint. And I think the minute I put paint to canvas, I knew that I would be doing this for a very long time. And my canvases just started getting larger and larger and larger. And like we had a person in the college that would make the canvases for us, and he was like, you're not painting 6 foot by 6 foot canvas. And I was like, oh no, I am. And I just remember thinking, like, I have so much freedom here, there's no judgment. Like, it took me a while to sort of fit into that mind frame of, it's just me, like I'm literally just expressing myself with paint and colour. There's nothing wrong with that. And then our group crits that we had with all the other talented artists that I was in college with, they started complimenting my work and like asking me about the process. And it was nice because they were the ones that I looked up to and asked for advice from them when I was in college. Then the tables kind of turned where they were asking me for advice. So again, it was that mindset of, I must be doing something right if they're asking me. But I always knew I was going to be an art teacher. So like leaving the fine art course to go into a master's where you're just so text heavy and research and reading, and you kind of like, you're like, I'm not, like, half of this I'm not going to be teaching the kids. This is actually crazy. I need like to be back in college making work, going through the process, so that when they ask me questions I know what to say. But I know the system needed me to have the master's degree. So that I kind of lost my artistic flair for 2 years. And then COVID hit when I was graduating, and it was like a blessing in disguise because I just had time then to, release anything inside me again. So yeah, not many people can say it, but I probably owe it to COVID really to get me back on the artistic like path. And again, like I was just making work for the sake of making work for myself, and then it just took off in the summer 2022. And that's, it just literally took off.
I hear you. I love that, Emma. And I think it's in those corners of like lockdown and like with COVID, it's in those corners where you can't see, or you don't know what's going to happen, or your options are like gone, that you kind of find what it is that is actually really important, and like that, and then springboard off that. And I hear you so loud and clear when you say where you lose some of that artistic expression in the process of the science side of it, like with the masters and the paperwork. Like I'm down home at the minute, and for anyone listening, and if you're kind of watching this on YouTube or that either, you can see that I'm in my home house office that I kind of made in COVID when I like that down home. And I was just actually really lucky that I had it set up before COVID hit, and then I was teaching from home here at the time then. And why I'm mentioning that is when you have a certain way that things have to be done, and then you get a chance to kind of create things in your own way. Like that was the first time I Googled Classroom, or that was the first time like being able to like teach, just and or do your work, whatever your work is, and also take a little bit of a break, come back, rather than the in-betweenness of the going, the to and the fro. And so what I'm getting at is I got a bit of a creative flair back then for the passion of what the work was, in knowing that you're still going through the system, and it's like this is past the point of like college days of trying to explain how you're doing a lesson plan. Like, you know what you're doing, you have the capabilities, and you've got the resources around you now to kind of just, as you say, go all in again and then springboard from that. And what do you feel, Emma, and again from that kind of artistic kind of side of things, and knowing like even with the likes of practical subjects like art is, and I'd have experienced that in too, and for any of our students who are practical based too, how do you find that in the other side of the desk, as I call it? So, in flipping from one to the other, from flipping from that I'm creating this dish or this piece of art or whatever it might be, to then having to show someone else and explain the method and the process.
Yeah, like the only thing is you don't see a lot of abstract work even in the junior cert. Maybe more in the leaving cert, because we have that new course now where you're investigating today's world, and like there's so many modern artists out there, like even ones that I look up to, ones that I've met as well. I'm just like, there needs to be more education around abstract art, because not everything in life is black and white. Like, if there's a student sitting down there who has an abstract frame of mind like mine, or like other abstract artists, they're restricted into making something that makes sense to an examiner, or maybe it doesn't make sense to the examiner, but in the back of their head they're like, well, if I don't think the examiner is going to understand it, I'm failing. Yes. And it's the fear of failing and the fear of not just expressing yourself, because we're so fixated on what's in the textbook, what we have to, like all of our training days, it's literally like, this is what you have to do to let the kids get them points. It all comes down to points in the leaving cert. But I feel like for me, I have the escape to paint abstract expressionism. I don't know if that's a word. Like abstract expressionism after work. It's kind of like, it's just my way of like letting go of what's like in my head or in my chest, like just let out and canvas. But when I'm in work, it's like, okay, there's something right in front of you there. You have to draw it exactly how it looks in front of you. And that's like, it's part of the course. Yeah. But I can always pinpoint that one student who you're like, that student could go on to art college because they're not thinking like everyone else in the room. Yeah. They're sort of changing the colour a bit, changing the shape. And for me as a teacher, I would give them full marks because I'm like, I get what you're doing. Yeah. And then, but I always have a fear of not letting them do that either, because I'm not sure what the examiner is going to think when they come in, and it's on me to get them over that finish line. Yeah. And it's toxic, because but like an artist who draws exactly what's in front of them, or is like a realist artist, they'll have no problem, because their program's like that. But it's like a catch-22. So I'm teaching them the curriculum, following the rules as such to get them over the line. But then I can show them my own work and say, when you go outside these doors and the four walls of this room, it's not like this. Like, go into the gallery, just kind of sit back and just take in the art. There's no textbook, there's no curriculum, just go for the experience more so than the pressure of, I have to do this right, because if I fail, that's my, I'm going home to probably unhappy parents, or I'm unhappy with myself because I didn't push myself good enough, even though I'm seeing full potential in front of me as a teacher. And I could say it till the cows come home, that I believe in them and that they're doing such a great job. They will not believe me because they have a fear of failing. And it's horrible. But I also had that in school, so I get it. And in school, you're listening to your teacher. And they're telling you, if you do this, you'll get over the line, and I believe in you. And like my art teacher in school, like she always told me, like, just be yourself. And I remember thinking, how can I be myself? There's people, I walk out of the art room, there's going to be people sneering me. Like, you know, you're kind of fitting in. You have to fit in all the time. And like, I kind of, that just feeds in. That just is always feeding into schools. And it's not the school's fault. It's not our fault as teachers. It's not the students' fault. It's just the culture we're in. And it's not going to take one teacher to change that, or one student. It's just taking that risk and leap of doing something completely different to be recognised in the art world, and you'll be fine then. But like that might be different to, you know, science or math. You know, it's not black and white. It changes all the time. Like, you see artists coming out with just outrageous pieces of work, and you're like, it's outrageous, but I want to know why you made it. And then it's the concept and the why behind it, where you're like, that is so clever, but not many people are going to respect that.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, it comes down to respect as well. Like, as a teacher, like, we are always respecting students, like, creativity. Like, if they want to do something, you're pushing them to do it, because they need to go and see the highs and lows of making work. Maybe failing sometimes, just to be like, should have taught that through a little bit more, but it's a lesson learned. Like, you're showing them that it's okay not to do everything right all the time. And I think art is like a great subject for that expression and experience. It's practical, yeah. It's your own work. You can stand by it and explain it in your own words if you take the risk.
100%.
Yeah,
I love it. There's so much truth in all of that, like, because it is a risk. Like, can we go here for a second? Can we, like, because I could rabbit hole down the Irish education system for like a whole series, never mind an episode. Yeah. But it's that thing of proving yourself, and that perfectionism, as you say, that belief, that mindset that happens because someone somewhere, whether it was the teacher in the classroom, and by the sounds of it, you're same as me, we're not those teachers. And I wasn't that, of it has to be in a certain way. Now, having said that, there is a science and there's a rule, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what happens when you break some scientific principles, because I don't, but I'm sure there's explosions that happen. So I'm sure when you mix certain chemicals and things like that, I'm sure there are some, like, very clear things that you don't do in the science world. But I also know that 2 plus something else than 2 equals 4, and like 2 isn't a whole number. Like, I know that much in a simple context. So for friends listening who are still with us that are further along than I am in how to explain that, what I'm getting at is I think it's like the Peterson quote of, alongside our search for freedom, we all need structure. And I'm paraphrasing that slightly. In you need that expression. And when, as you say there, like, as young people, particularly and as teenagers, our need is to fit in, to blend in, to be like the crowd, to be at the collective, to be safe, and that kind of thing. So when you're doing something risky outside the box, in any way creative, and I do think teaching is a creative art form in itself as well, because as you say, you know your student better than they know themselves, for definite, easy peasy. You probably know them better than your parent does.
No, I won't go that far.
Would you not, Emma? In some ways, we'll keep this, complete anonymity all around and everything, and I never would out. But like, I've had students where I'm like looking at them and I'm like, I know, and then you're, maybe engaged in things like reports and communications back and forth and that kind of thing, where it's like, sometimes we see things, and that happens. It's just what I'm getting at, I suppose, from the artistic side of things is, if we break a rule, learning that it's okay, because maybe it was meant to be broken, because maybe it's something that is outside that safety net. And my question to you, Emma, would be like, what's maybe your hardest learned lesson of when a rule was broken or something didn't go to plan? Because things happen left, right, and center.
from like in my own experience.
Yeah, in your experience, either just in general life, artistically, professionally, as a teacher, and that, and just kind of add on to that in that question again for friends listening. Like I remember when Emma was applying for jobs and you're getting your website up and going and all that kind of thing, and like the level of detail and the tiniest, like you talked about doing the last 5%, like this gal does like the tiniest last nugget. So you break the rules of like the art form, but I know how precise the little things mean and matter. So when's the time maybe that like breaking a rule or something, what kind of was the biggest lesson or the biggest challenging time that maybe happened for you?
Do you know what? It's funny that you bring up the website, because I'm rarely visiting it, and I only used it in no, I did use it, but I only really used it in interviews with school, and like I hate kind of like, oh well, I've made this website too, you should go look at it. Like I could not say that in some of them, and obviously when you don't get the job, it's like, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, as you know, the jobs are probably already filled up before you even interview for them. But it's that like Debbie Downer negative thought that you're like, I wasn't good enough. But like when it came down to it, they actually didn't give like a crap about the website. It was the person in front of them. And it was just like, I just learned that a website, it's coded onto Google. The finer details I looked at, they probably overlooked them because it did not matter. And like that's kind of like metaphorically speaking, like you could hone in on something when you're doing something in like any scenario in life. And if you think that's the most important thing, kind of look at the wider picture of things and don't get bogged down with the negative, like, comments as such. Like I said it, I always say that some of the critics I meet in galleries, it's like, sure, a 5-year-old could paint that, or a child in a primary school could paint that. And I'm like, but no, they couldn't, because you actually haven't even met me as a person. You don't know the concept behind it. Yeah, there's colours splashed on a canvas, but I can also draw exactly what's in front of me, but that's just not me. So if you don't like the canvas, you can walk away from it. Like, no one is forcing you to look at it. No one is forcing you to like it. But as long as I'm happy with it, that's all that matters. And it's the same, like, I can't think of a situation off the top of my head, but when you just start overthinking and going through kind of like the phases that led up to a situation, you're always looking at like minor details that are so like significant to you because you're overthinking things. But at the end of the day, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. You just need to be yourself, like pick yourself up, turn to people around you. They will support you. And just don't get down that rabbit hole of saying you're not good enough because some small thing went against you. But I remember like so many interviews for like, because the goal after COVID was I need to get a job. Everything was on lockdown and no control over going over that 5K. So you're kind of thinking, well, what am I going to do as like for a job? Like, I'm just out of college, and people forgot about the people who were just out of college, because we were like, it was like being 12-year-old again. Like, it was like, I don't know what to do in my life. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I need help. Like, someone help me. Like, I need support here. But yeah, like honestly, like some of the things we hone in on in life aren't that important. And when you get that bigger picture, sometimes like they aren't important. Just to be yourself and have that support around you and be happy with what you're doing. If anyone else isn't happy with it, it's their choice not to be happy with it, but it's your life. So, again, like I the amount of hours put into that website, I don't look at it because it's not relevant nowadays. Not because I'm not interviewing, but it's just not relevant. Like, it's going into school, seeing the kids every morning. I'm not showing them the big website up on the whiteboard. I'm asking them how they are, checking in. And I don't even think about the website anymore, really. I know it's still there. It's still coded up onto Google, but yeah, it's just another irrelevant thing, really. If that makes sense.
No, it does, for definite. And I think like my takeaway from what you've said there is you we get so, as you say, get caught up on the little things that we forget about the big things, and it's like the solve bigger problems kind of a mindset, and sometimes they are big problems, and it's not to diminish, as you say, like what are big problems of trying to find a job, and maybe if you are the one that's kind of forgotten about in some way, shape or form, or you're trying to pave a new path or something and there's nobody else kind of doing it, and it's like you're that lost soul, which is very true and very real. And like I've been there, and we've been there in like making some of those big shifts and that are big problems, but to remember the context of the problem, like if it's the thing of not everything is a life and death situation. and so it's important, like, have a standard where you treat it like to a certain level of respect that it needs and the level of work that it needs, but also, the bigger picture of, does my school journals of 5 years were, with the perfect color pen and the highlighter and the tick boxes, I would say I've never opened them. I have actually opened them since to look at them and go like, I was obsessed, and then look at like how I keep my notes and stuff now, and there's bits of paper and bits of colour, bits of everything everywhere, and the system makes the same amount of sense as it did when it looked really good to someone else. So yeah, it's all about what's as you say, you're happy with your life and your choices and how you do things. I make no secret of the fact that my life changed completely when I reached out to Achievable Fitness 365. Jay is someone who not only gets the fitness side of things, he gets the human side of things. And in having someone who's walked the walk and talks the same thoughts has made me comfortable from the very get-go. Actually, that's a complete lie. I fell in the door and was sick on my first day, but kind of after that, I got comfortable somewhere along the line. Jay knows people, he knows the industry, and he's someone who will know you better than you know yourself. The accountability that he holds, the standard that he sets for you and not for anyone else, is what brought me back into me originally, more than 4 years ago. If you're ready to begin your fitness journey and don't know where to reach out, try Jay. And as I say, my life has never been the same since. Emma, where do you pull some of that expression from? I know you said that it's like as a escape in a way, and I'm wondering what kind of is that flow like for you? What kind of state does come to mind when you're getting into that expression? Is it something that you have a bit of a routine to get into? Is it something that's like emotional and then it's an outlet? Or what are you kind of thinking about or working through when you're in the zone?
It's an outlet. It's like sometimes, 90% of the time it's an emotional kind of outburst as such. That can be positive or negative. It depends what happens or what pops up at that given time. Like I play music in the background, but if I'm not ready to make the work, I won't go near the canvas because I get frustrated then, and that kind of outlet is kind of like an outburst, like of just emotion myself rather than making work. But it's funny because over summer, when we don't have work to worry about, we know it's coming up in September, but those summer months, I know people are like, oh, the teachers have a life of Larry, but like we're still working throughout those summer months, it's just we have more time. And I think that freedom of, you can go for a walk whenever you want to, make a cup of tea whenever you want it. There's no 9 o'clock bell. I lose myself more in the work. So I found the last 4 years, those 3 months of summer are my busiest, most productive months. Like I could be working on one canvas for 3 or 4 months. I keep going back to it and adding in like certain gestures of paint, and it completely changes the look. But I won't stop until I'm happy with it. And I have to keep like coming back to it because I'm all about how the viewer responds to the canvases. So like if they're feeling something different than what I'm feeling, I probably, in my head, I'm like, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, because I can't tell them how to feel. They're their own person. But when it comes to process, like it like when you have the artist block, like it could be even thinking about a parent teacher meeting that you have next week, and it's just all worry, and like everything is like there's just no room for the artistic flow when that happens. And I'm not saying like every parent teacher meeting is the problem. It could be like just one class that can go your way one day. But like I'm the type of person, like I'll dwell on that for probably a day, because I'm like, well, what can I do to change the outcome of that for the next time? And that takes so much energy, because again, like I'm a hypocrite saying this, but I wouldn't want to do anything wrong in work. I want to like make sure I'm doing everything right and overthink things just to make sure that I'm doing everything right. And that takes so much of our energy, like mentally. And you're just exhausted then. And when it comes to making work though, if like it could be like I could wake up tomorrow morning and I have 3 colours in my head and I'll just paint. And like I won't speak to anyone for hours. I'll turn off my phone, I'll have music playing, but I'll be a different person leaving the room when I'm finished. Like I mightn't be happier, I might just be more thankful, just relieved as such, like relieved just from whatever. Like I mightn't even be able to put a word or name what's going on inside me, but I release it on the canvas, whatever it is, I just release it, and it just helps. And it's therapeutic as well. But there's like a math to it as well, because I'm kind of deciding where to put colours and mix up colours, and if the colour isn't right, I won't put it down. So I'm like in full control about how this canvas is going to look. And I think that's what the beauty of it is, like you're in full control of what is going to be the outcome of this. And like as humans, like we love that feeling. It's power. But it's just your hand painting. Like it's very minor. But then in my head, I'm like, someone's going to be looking at this one day, if it's in a gallery or just the girls popping over for tea, they might see it in here in the room and they might have a response to it. Like that's the outcome. It's like, I want to share this with you in a way that I'm not just using words. It's a communication device, really. But how you respond to it is on your terms. So I'm always eager to hear about people's opinions. And then when you get the negative opinions, it's literally like, well, again, if you don't like it, I'm not forcing you to like it, but maybe just have a bit of constructive criticism behind the negative comments all the time. Because, you know, abstract art isn't for everyone. But I know when people get to know me and speak with me, they kind of realise that I'm actually teaching realism art as well in school, because that's what the curriculum wants. So then they kind of have more respect for me, because I can draw exactly what's in front of me, which is just bizarre in this modern day and age. Art is art. Like there'll just be a banana taped to a wall and sell for millions. I don't understand that. I know there's a concept behind it, but that's their business. Like if that person wants to spend millions on that banana, let them. That's their business. Like, so I think like in one way we have to be like more considerate about how we speak to someone with our comments as well about work. Like that's in school as well. You can't just go up to a student who's struggling and be like, you should know how to do this. Like that's not going to get anyone anywhere. Like, so we're so used to like kind of thinking about ways to voice things and voice opinions and help people. You're not bogging them down, whereas other people, they won't have that mindset at all. So you kind of have to take that with a pinch of salt. Yeah.
Or a bucket, as I say sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so true. I'm distracted by the thought of opinions. But with what you said there, with the emotional expression and then the communication side of it, I 100% hear you, because what is art except emotion that's just not voiced, you know? Like, I'm not a dancer. I like to dance. I like if I know how to kind of do a bit of a routine. I love that from the flow, but like I don't know the science of it enough, I suppose, to make it work on my feet. And I could with practice and discipline, but I enjoy the feeling that it brings. But again, I'm quoting Frank Sinatra there, you know, in his song lyrics, you know, what is dancing but making love set to music, you know? It's that kind of thing of like your body is communicating in a fun way. And if we just keep it as like fun or fear kind of thing, when you're kind of using those kind of dance movements, it's typically like a fun thing. And then when you're creating through art or through drama or through even with words, like when you're writing poetry, and some of the that we've had on the podcast so far and to come and that kind of thing, where hearing the different processes, I am with you on the sense of sometimes it's the case. So when it comes to playing with the pen or just trying to get words to make sense of what's happening, it is an emotional response. Like it's a case of get me a pen and a page now. That's why like I'm never too far away from a pen. And if there's a thought, if something kind of makes a bit of sense. So
yeah,
with the art for you, I'm really curious, Emma, where it's being used as a communication, and I've done that, and the blog was that, and friends listening, with Thinking of Me blog, that's where all of this kind of came from. And there's the Instagram page, some of the originals there, and there's the weekly newsletter for Thoughtful Tuesdays where you get them sent straight into your email. But the writing to communicate became less and less important. It was more so because it started from a point of I need to get this out, like I need to get this out in some way. And then it was, I need someone to hear this. And then, as I say, communicating some of that. And then it became the thing of, I'm writing this because this is what makes sense for me. I'm feeling this, I'm creating something with this. And then if you can hear it, great. And your opinion isn't really, again, kind of as you say there, like an importance as such. It's like you either do or you don't. Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm curious as to like, do you feel kind of the same, or what's it like when you, or do you do much art where it's like, I don't want anyone to even see this, or
like there's been some work that I haven't shown yet, and like again, it's an emotional response for me. Like I spent hours making the work, and I'm almost like personifying it because it was me at the time just lashing out. And it's kind of like I'm not showing it until I'm ready.
Gotcha.
But like it's the same as like listening to a song, and like some of the lyrics in songs will make you just cry. Like I remember that Adele song years ago. What was it called? Someone Like You, I think is what it's called. And I remember just thinking, oh, it's just another song. And you're just like in your own bubble listening to new music, and you don't know how that song is going to affect you because it's not everything's upbeat and not everything's like happy. So it's the same like with the paintings. Not everything is lovely and florally and colourful. Like there's some dark work as well. But I know I will show it when I'm ready.
Yeah.
But until I'm ready, no one's seeing it. And again, it's kind of like, well, that's the balls in my court here. Like if I'm not going to share it with you, it's because I'm afraid of hearing those opinions, and I care so much about the work that if I'm going to let you in, I'm letting you in on my mind as such and my feelings. It's basically like if someone's really upset and crying, it's like telling someone just to wipe away the tears without knowing why they're crying. Yeah. Like if you don't know the backstory, then it's going to be hard to kind of respond. So yeah, when I'm ready for that response, I'll show the work. But at the minute, I'm just like still learning why and how it works, that it goes from here to my shoulder to my hand and then onto the canvas. Like there is science behind it. Yeah. But for me, if I just get colours or an idea in my head, like you, like grabbing the piece of paper and pen, I need to come out here and just mix up that colour because I don't want to lose it. Even though it'll probably come back to me when I'm painting, but it's just that excitement of, and that determination, and like you're kind of you just want to get it out as soon as you can because it doesn't belong in here, it needs to be seen. And I always say, like to the students as well, we are so lucky that we get to see colour. And there's some people that don't have that privilege. They can see, but they might be colourblind, and they will never know what that painting or paintings look like to us. So if you have something and it's a privilege, use it correctly and just kind of be more considerate and respect it, because other people don't have that privilege. But that's just an example of how I kind of work. It's all colour. Like, I can't say it's a landscape. I can't say it's a painting of a dog. I can't say it's the lane down the road for me. Like, it's just colour. So
Yeah.
it either speaks to people or it doesn't. But again, it's just me on canvas, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and see where it goes, see where it takes me.
I love that. It sounds like you've got the head to your shoulder to your arm, but there's a lot of heart
Yeah.
that moves all of that. And it's when we can see that ourselves, and when we're ready to see that, that's important before it's shared. The drama side of things, and that, again, an area of like where opinions come left, right, and centre, especially when you maybe do something that's like against what was the norm and that kind of thing. And like even theatre in 2025 now is changing again. And, things always evolve and so on. But if you're not ready to see something or hear parts of yourself in your work, yeah, absolutely. Like it's not for anyone to unveil that. That's a you opening your heart kind of thing. And without being too airy-fairy in that, but it's a raw experience. It's something created by you and of you, and I look forward to when that happens with some of that work.
Yeah. It's like it has already happened though with the work shown abroad.
Yeah,
I mean, at some stage during that trip, I was actually delighted that I can't speak Italian, because I was like, I actually don't want to know what you're saying, because they're like very like, their facial expressions very hard to read. So I'm like, are you happy or are you sad? Are you angry at me? Like, you need to give me something. But like when the translator was translating what they were saying to me, it was actually good. And then I took a step back and I was like, here I am, the biggest hypocrite. I'm criticizing them for judging my work, but I'm here judging their facial expressions to know what they're thinking. And it was kind of like, I just need to take a chill pill here, because look where I am. I'm in Italy. Like, I just need to take it all in. And it was that in that moment when I stood back and like kind of took it all in, I was like, this is mad. I just need to stop being like, I need to do everything right here. You only get one chance, because 2 more chances came after that trip.
Yeah.
Because of that trip, it was like a domino effect, and it happened all within 6 months. And like at the start of 2022, if you told me I was going to Italy to show my work, I would have laughed in your face. And then I was just kind of believing in myself as well, that what I was doing was correct, because someone has noticed my work, owns galleries in these like fabulous and beautiful countries and cities that I would have never have visited with my work, only for these people. And they showed the respect and consideration and passion that I had, and that's why I agreed to show the work, because I wasn't just going to show it in any gallery. They're like so close to me. And again, I'm personifying the paintings, but again, if you spend so much time getting something right and being yourself on canvas, like you don't want to share it with just anyone. So I think though, with the trips abroad with the work, it kind of allowed me to grow as a person. Like, not so much as an artist, because the art is done, it's up on the wall, sitting there pretty, but as a person who, I was so shy when I first went into the gallery. I didn't know, like, I knew there was very important people there. You can just tell by them, they were very important. And I kind of just said to myself, just be yourself, because being myself got me there. And like the plane over, I remember I had like the sheet of paper with a speech on it, because I was meant to take a video in front of my work, and I was memorizing this sheet of paper on the plane. And I remember when I stood in front of the camera, it just completely wiped out of my mind, and whatever I regurgitated, I just remember thinking, what was I saying? But it made sense. And when the microphone was taken off me and the camera was turned off, like I remember the group that were behind the camera started clapping, and they were just like, oh, the passion and Bella, Bella. And I was like, I didn't say what was on the script, but I said what I wanted to say. So I was like, once that's finished now, I can enjoy myself. So it was sort of like a business trip, not just like everyone thought I was away on holiday, but the stress that you feel when you're in a room with important people and all eyes are on you, it's like, it's daunting, but there's a reason why you're there, and you have to keep like being humble and be thankful that you got there, because there was no other Irish people there. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't speak Italian. Like I said, I didn't know what half of them were saying, like, you know. And if some of them had broken English, it was like you're still trying to like, oh, I kind of get what you're saying. But it was just such an amazing trip, and I thought that was it. I thought, like, this has been the best summer ever. And then the week later, the invitation came for London, and I remember thinking, oh, that's actually grand because people speak English over there, and you know, I can get a 45-minute flight over. It's not as daunting as Italy. It was just as daunting. Like, it was just as daunting. It was a smaller gallery. They wanted smaller work. But again, like, just being able to walk through the threshold of the door and see your work up on the wall. Like, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. It's like you've accomplished something in your life that your 12-year-old self wouldn't believe if, like, that it could happen. Like, I keep going back to community games because I've had so many interviews where people are like, no one just picks up a guitar and knows how to play guitar. Where did it come from? But it did come from those competitions that I was younger, with the really long table in Constantine Hall, surrounded by people my own age. And like, we come from such a small part of Ireland. And then I was over in Italy and London, then in Rome. Like, it was crazy just to think that it was happening, because you leave everything behind. I left work behind. I was just solely focused on art. And you nearly miss that feeling sometimes, because you're surrounded by people who acknowledged what you were doing.
Yeah.
Not just because you're an art teacher, you should know all this. It was more, they seen me. They understood me. And it wasn't just, oh, you're very good at it. Yeah, well done. It wasn't like a pat on the back moment. It was more so like, I'm not invisible. They're seeing me as an artist, seeing me as an abstract artist. And it was sort of like, when I talk about one of the works, it's actually on show at Loan at the minute. It's called Interlacement. It's one of my largest pieces of work. And I remember the day in college, I was just took a deep breath and I said, you know what, just take the risk, do that, like, you know, crazy brushstrokes, just whatever comes to mind, just do it. And it was the same feeling when I stood back from doing that first canvas of like my breakthrough moment. That same feeling was when I was in the gallery just talking about art, and it kind of just flows out of you through conversation. Yeah. So it was nice that there was two different dialogues. The dialogue between the viewer and the canvas. There is like dialogue there, communication about feelings and response. And then the other dialogue was conversing with people who understood you. And like, they almost knew exactly what was going to come out of my mouth the next sentence, because they fully got what I was trying to do. So like, I will always cherish those experiences. But again, like this summer, I wanted to stay on Irish soil, because as I said, like, there's canvases here that I haven't shown. And I was replying to emails and invitations from other galleries around the world. Like, amazing to get them. And to get the invitations, like, it's something else. I just thought it was going to stop in Venice, but it keeps going. But no one in Ireland had seen my work in a gallery space. And I kind of had to like go back to my roots. So, you know, people who were in and out of the house were able to see the work, but not up on a gallery space. And I just promised myself that I'd stay on Irish soil this summer to show the work that other people had seen throughout the world. I mean, there was so many different nationalities walking through the gallery. And if I can't show people in my home country my work, then why am I doing this? Because I'm standing there as a proud Irish woman, a female artist from Ireland, speaking about Ireland and speaking about our culture and how proud I am to raise the Irish flag in that if I can't show my work at home. So that's what I did this summer. I literally applied for open calls, and I've like work in Athlone and Galway. So that's where I'm at the moment. I am still making work, but it's a nice break as such from showing work, because the next show then will have a different response and different impact. So it's kind of just a small break at the minute, but I'm still painting here. Yeah, it's
You're only starting.
It's just been a crazy 2 years. Like it's funny because I think I was the youngest in the galleries there. I was up against like people who were 80 years old, and like they had made millions on their work. Like they were showing work in like show houses over in America and Miami and that. And I remember just thinking like, I'm very young, and you have like literally established yourself in the art scene. Like I couldn't comprehend how my work was beside theirs, but the curators and gallery owners had seen something in my work where they were like, we need that up on the wall. But it's funny because over in London, I was standing by my work. My Auntie Mary was taking photographs of me just to like for the page, and she had walked away just to like view the other artworks, and I was standing there just kind of like, dawdling around. I was like, we're here in London, another beautiful place. Like you see London up on films and that, but I was never there before. So I was taking it all in, and a lot of the other artworks were like English countrysides, or there wasn't much abstract work. And when I was standing there, a woman came up to me and she said, oh, you like the work? And I was like, oh yeah, no, very much, yeah, it's lovely. And she was like, I wonder what the artist was trying to say. And I was like, oh, well, if you stay there for a few minutes, it will come to you. So she stood there just like tilting the head, looking at the work, and I was just standing there still beside her. And she said, and what response did you get? And I was like, well, I'm actually just waiting to see what you say. And she kind of just gasped. She's like, oh my God, you're the artist. I thought you would be like 60 years old, retired. And I was like, no. And she just, we just started conversing then. And she just thought with the level of artwork hanging up in the gallery that she probably thought I was retired and just spending my days outside painting or something. It was just very funny because, again, you don't know the artists until you meet them and understand them. Like, again, it's just judging it without knowing the person behind it. So yeah, it was nice. It was a lovely experience. But my favorite, like Venice was great because it was just kind of like the building block of what was coming. I was way out of my comfort zone in Venice, so it was still unbelievable, like the experience. But my favorite trip was probably Rome, because I just seen interlacement. Like my first abstract painting was hanging up on the wall with spotlights on it, and I just remember I just gasped. I just took a deep breath because you do get emotional yourself.
Yeah.
Like, not that there's so much pressure on you, but in my mind it was like, well, I've done Venice, I've done London, now I need to do really well here. Like, what if I don't do well? And it just, when you walk through the door and see it up on the wall, you're like, I've done the work. Just take the breaths, enjoy it. And it was just amazing. Like, that trip was just, I still think about it. It was just full of culture and meeting people that share the same outlook on life through an artistic vision. So yeah, it was just amazing.
That's what I'm hearing in all of this, Emma. It's like, once you're in the right rooms, and for you, it's like the art rooms, and with the art people, that's not the right word, but art drama people, I say, the drama people, everyone thinks is a bit nuts sometimes, and then you've got the science people, without categorizing, like, as you say, it's the human. And for friends listening, if you don't know the towns, lands of Northwest Meath in Ireland, read I say, like, just go read Martin McDonagh or Annie, or like James Hinch. Like, they're all still so relevant. Go back and read like Annie or peg. Go back and read anything Old Ireland, and it's not that old. I do explain that in Southside Dublin a lot, that Old Ireland is alive and still doing ancient things, and some of that is great, and our neighbours and that sense of tribe and that kind of thing, absolutely. But when your mindset hasn't stretched, and I love what you said there, where you're proudly waving the Irish flag, but yet you can't get recognised on your home ground. And there's a lot of that, maybe even within your own house. It's that kind of thing of, I'm here in my own house and I'm well, and you don't get that acknowledgement. And without going too deep into anything like that, Ireland it can be a lot like that. Of, hi, I'm here, and I have a thought for you. But as someone who has spent the last couple of years, and right now, like the last couple of months, and where most of my hours of my day are in American rooms, and thanks to technology, like all things are able to happen that way. And since COVID, it was a huge springboard of being able to do these kind of things, where you get outside of your house, your four walls. It's kind of like we spoke about even with the art. You break those four walls of your house, your nation, your mindset, your expression, and you find someone who's like you. And then it's not as hard anymore. It's not as hard anymore, I suppose.
Yeah.
I thought, Emma, on what would it be like if some of that stuff that whenever you're ready to share, you just do it in a foreign country where English isn't the first language, like, and that's the first time it's seen, because you can't hear what you're getting back.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, there's so much preparation put into art shows, and I remember they were all three of them over in Italy and London, right? They were so well organized. But there was like a slight thought, I was like, what if something went wrong? Like, what do they do if something goes wrong? Because it seems so perfect, and like, you know, like there is a lot of important people in those rooms, so they can't afford to make mistakes. Yes, there's artwork on the wall there by me with a couple of mistakes up the corner where I remember I didn't fix that. But it's like breaking the rule, like going back to breaking the rules. What would happen if you were to just completely upturn a typical show? Like go full culture, like, you know, because we are cultures here in Westmeath, far from posh people, and there was a lot of posh people, like,
with all the love, there's nothing wrong, you know, but when you're trying to explain you are a bogger at heart, like, interject, I'm really affirm.
Even like blaring country music when you're meant to have a quiet space for people to think. I'd just be like wondering, what would country music do to someone who's looking at my work? Would they think I was jigging there on the canvas, or like what would they think? But you're kind of...
I'm looking forward to when you do that. You would definitely... I love making the box. I think, Emma, I'm not putting this on you, but like, I have no shadow of a doubt. Before we came on, and I don't know how much you want to share, I know our friends listening can definitely resonate with when there's a change and a control factor that's been out of our hands, whether it's an illness or a change in circumstance, loss, grief, anything we can't control, and feel like we're sitting on our hands a little bit. It creates a cloud. I always call them like clouds of shit. Like, what is the next step?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're in a little bit of a cloud at the minute.
Yeah.
Like, you're only starting.
Yeah, I know. It's just, you know what? It's a bump in the road. You know, there's been a few bumps in the roads, but like at the minute, it's just a bump in the road. Like, obviously, like last week when the accident happened, it was like so many negative thoughts going on in my head. Like, I can't drive. What if I can't paint? Like, I have to move back home now for a while. It's just like, what is going on? Like, what is next? But I just, like I said, I have time now to kind of heal and mend myself in a way that I'm in my own home, cozy. There, like when you've nothing to do, when you actually physically can't do anything in the day, you have thoughts in your head constantly going. But like, you just have to keep positive about things. Like, I think, do you know what was annoying? It's because it's the start of the year that this has happened to me. And I'm like, for God's sake, I was like affirming really a nice year ahead of 2025. But there's a reason for everything happening. So I don't know what this has restricted me not to do. Maybe it's just to get my mind clear again to paint the next series of paintings, which I wouldn't want to be in this position again for that to happen. But like, you just have to take day by day. Like, I can't change. What happens tomorrow will happen tomorrow. What happened last week has already happened, so you just kind of need to like move on. But like, honestly, the door has been so busy swinging open. The kettle's been boiled with cups of tea from people visiting me. Like, I'm not a hermit. I have people calling, but I can only imagine, like, one of those thoughts. I can only imagine someone living by themselves, not like physically able to do something. How do they manage? How do they go from day to day? Like, it kind of just, it puts you back in your place a little bit. Like, I'd be grateful for everything that's happened the last 2 years. I've been so grateful for, and what's coming down the line, I'll be grateful for. I'm going to start saying yes to invitations, well, if they're within Ireland for the next few years. But like, even grateful to get up every morning to go to work. Like, when that's taken away from you, like I said, it's out of your control. So it's going to take time to mend, like, so, but it'll be fine because I know I have everything up in here that I need to get out on canvas. So I'll be focusing on that for the next few weeks. That's just the goal at the minute.
Well, I can't wait till you come back and tell us what rules you broke 2025. And just to say to you, Emma, and if anyone else resonates with this that's listening, I see every day as a new year. And when I started doing that, I know that sounds cheesy, but when I made that a habit of not focusing on today is currently Thursday, like, today is Thursday and it's not Monday, so I can't start until Monday. I'll wait until then, or like that. It's not the 1st of the 1st, 2025, or it's not the 1st of the month, or whatever. When I kind of broke those rules, when I got out of that box, it became easier to see the win. It became easier to kind of see the progress point of, I'm not in a linear journey, like progress, like, like you're doing stuff, with art, all that kind. It's not like you start and then it is the graph, and I feel you with the gratitude for the little things right now, where the change you're in, and in what is a bit of a dip in the graph, for a short period, acknowledging what we have, and it kind of full circles us in the sense of being happy where you are while working for what you're going to get and going to be. So, what would you say? And just as we close, would you have any final thoughts or something you'd love to say to a younger version of you, or to someone who's listening on that, those tough points, whatever it might be?
Yeah. Like, another interview, like, I'm always asked this question, and like, it changes every time I answer, but it's the same kind of message. It's like, just like, first of all, just be yourself, because if there's any example of that getting you to a good place, it's probably looking at my life. Like, it's just, life is always a roller coaster. You have ups and downs, you have loss, you have grief, but if you just pick yourself up, focus on the people around you, they will have the best advice you'll hear in your life. Take it on board and just be yourself, because no one can change that. No one has control to change it. And we're kind of like in a day and age now where people think their opinions are going to change someone, but they're not, because when you get to our age, you're looking back and you're like, I wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah.
Like, you're yourself. That's all
Yeah.
you can do. If that's one thing you're going to do from day to day, like that New Year kind of idea that every day is a new year, you just be yourself. You're not impressing anyone but yourself. And if your morals are in place where the actions you do or the decisions you make you stand by them, then that's all you can do,
%. I love it. Thanks, Emma. And with that, as ourselves, at the fine ripe young age to be able to say that, I'm still right side of 30. The fact that I know those lessons, I know the growth that's to come. And as I say, for anyone listening who, whatever age, whatever time of year, whatever day of the week, whatever hour of the day it is, it's always a chance to say exactly as Ed said, I'm in control of me, and the best person I can focus on right now is me, and let the opinions slide. And this has been so much fun. Looking forward to, as I say, seeing your rules being broken in 2025. And for anyone who is interested in keeping a follow of Emma and her artist work, you can see our show notes and see all the rules she's already broken and all the creations that are already made, and keep a follow, as I say, of what's to come, because this has been great. Thank you so much for reconnecting for this, Emma, and I'm sure we'll see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, friend, for listening to the Thinking of Me podcast. I hope you found something within our story today that lands for you. You can keep up with us on Thinking of Me blog, Thinking of Me coaching, and Lauren Jean on socials. Go to thinkingofmecoaching.com/checklist for your checklist for self-fulfillment. Until our next chat, talk soon, my friend.